Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Brad Etter, and you could best describe me as a dancer between dimensions. In this visually and spiritually grayscale series that you're watching right now, I seek to share the findings of that dance and open it up to you for introspective conversation that can hopefully spur some transformational consciousness. It is my knowing that everything I've come to understand through my own direct experience, however seemingly confounding, frightening, and far-fetched, lies dormant within all of us and waits for the right moment to stir awake when we are ready to know these facts. This is the reason that the galactic center, or the central hub of the universe that connects us to the immaterial octaves of reality, release oscillations of information-coded light when we are ready to collectively understand certain truths. I have been guided to help make sense of that process for anyone who seems confused by what is going on Earth right now. But just because the galactic center is pulsing does not mean that we have to accept the pulse. That is the choice that each and every one of us must make in this transition into a new Earth. In the first video of the I Am Merkaba series, My Torture and Rape in the Lower Astral Plane, I discussed the horrific experiences that I personally endured in a low state of resonance called the lower astral plane, and traced those experiences to the food and drink that I was eating that was putting me in that resonance, showing that the lumen, or digestive tract, is the interface of all interdimensional experience that one can have within their body, and that the outer reality is directly mirrored by the inner reality. Synthetics, the etymology of which means without theta or infinity, in the luminary tract create mutated synthetic experience beyond the confines of the darkest imagination, closely resembling that of a saw film, while natural foods, drink, and gases create a high vibrating and epic experience closely resembling that of a Greek myth, which is natural to all of us. I really hope that this makes sense because it's going to act as the fundamental foundation of everything else we're going to be discussing in this series. We must grasp and make a parallel to the fact that everything is created within the digestive tract. Everything we see, hear, touch, smell is a direct creation, a film, if you will, that is projected out from the luminary tract. Most people are in a state of impurity and they're seeing a lot of impure things, and that's why they are part of this dystopia ultimately that seems horrible and confining, confusing. I touch a lot on that in the lower astral video, so please go watch that if you need a little more information and backstory on the luminary tract and its importance in being the interface of our dimensional reality. Today I want to discuss the phantom world. The phantom world is a languishing, grayscale, void-like, hopeless place that mirrors this earth reality. It looks exactly the same, except it's as if all the blood has been let out of it. It's just gray and barren. And from that dimensional layer, life forms appear as glowing orbs of light. It is a replication of this world, vacuumed of all possible purpose, a place where love has gone to die. Animals have the ability to perceive this plane. In fact, they see many levels of reality, like opacified Photoshop layers, all at once. That's why you may occasionally see your dog or cat look suddenly at a certain spot in the air and fixate on it as if something were right there. The phantom world is directly connected to the lower astral plane because it is the byproduct of all the crimes that go on in the lower astral plane, which is the low state of resonance realm where material devolves from. So you have the astral plane, you have the lower astral plane. The lower astral plane is the lower end of the light spectrum that creates the concept realm from which material devolves. So we must make the parallel that the phantom world is a byproduct that was just created by all of the unconscionable what-if realities that happen to the astral bodies of our human selves in the lower astral plane. It is not hellish. It is not anything. It is actually the worst place that someone can find themselves because it is completely devoid of purpose. At least with torture, murder, there is an intention to inflict pain. There is a narrative unfolding. The phantom world is the vacuum of narrative. It is nothing at all. It is the worst place you could ever find yourself. A film that aptly perceives the phantom world is Silent Hill, which depicts a woman trying to save her daughter who has been dragged into an interdimensional war to rectify the lower astral crimes that happened to a little girl living on the premises of Silent Hill. So they must go through the phantom world to retrieve her soul fragment pieces that were littered in that grayscale landscape. I recommend watching this film to really get a canvas of what this place is like. This brings us to soul fragmentation, because the phantom world only exists because of the act of soul fragmentation. When the soul fragments, a protoplasmic version of the self is duplicated in the phantom world. The protoplasmic self is a telluric or biological aspect of the body in the many Photoshop layers that we are, remember, that replicates at a time of extreme trauma within the same part of the world, in the same place on the matrix grid of the earth where the trauma took place. And that person is frozen forever, indefinitely in timelessness, bad timelessness, on the matrix grid at the site of the trauma, at the time of the trauma, at the appearance of the trauma, indefinitely. They list about an eternal aimlessness near the site of that trauma until their corporal self, the cardinal self, this self, consciously reclaims them to the physical body. This is similar to depictions of ghosts in Hollywood films, except Hollywood makes it a very fearful thing. We have no connection and understanding of what demons are, what ghosts are, what the difference is. It's just one giant fear fest of the supernatural. So I'm really trying to be conscious and wise about this and explain what the soul fragments are, what the demons are causing the soul fragmentation, and how we need to stop this whole process from happening if we want the earth to ascend. Because number one, this is what's holding back the earth from ascending as a great being. We have to understand that. Otherwise, we are toiling in pointlessness because we ourselves are fragmented. We are feeling incomplete always. We will never, ever, ever slake our fulfillment, never, ever rise out of a false white light net that exists over the lower astral realm because of the existence of the phantom world. It's not just keeping the earth mired, it's keeping us mired in reincarnational coercion. That means that anyone who has incarnated into this earth and been playing out many lifetimes, at the time of the lower astral plane's creation and the phantom world's creation from that, have been going through reincarnational cycles, the same thing over and over. They're literally forced to reincarnate at a biological fundamental resonance level that operates with the quantum physical law. This is a huge problem because most people are being cycled through this game over and over because they have not reclaimed the pieces that keep them mired to incompletion. What makes this situation truly awful is that the soul fragment does not have any power in returning to the corporal self. She has no idea who she is, where she comes from, what purpose she has. She just exists in this weird vacuumed reality of nothing until reclaimed consciously back to the body. I mentioned that soul fragments linger close to the spot where the trauma occurred. That is on the matrix, and the matrix is the incredibly complex quantum mechanical playground scape, kind of like a video game skin that allows us to play the earth game. Deriving from the word maternal or mother, the matrix is our mother code. When certain things happen in this game that the programmer did not anticipate, the player will find glitches in it. So hold that thought, I will come back to that in just a second. Rewind to 7-year-old Brad, me, huddled over a notebook with a pen in hand. I was drawing, and I was drawing lots of different interdimensional creatures that I still saw from my young age because I clung to the lights of other worlds much more clearly at that time. The first thing I ever drew was a silhouette, a perfect black as night outline of a person who I knew was not being thrown into shadow, but vacuumed from the fabric of reality like a person-shaped void. I would later come to know that I was drawing the inversion of a human being that basically puts a cigarette burn hole through the entire dimensional structure because of the many traumas that have occurred to the same soul within the physical plane over time because they are forced to reincarnate into pain situations. So the question of the hour is, what exactly causes the soul to fragment? Well, let's look at that. It is a multitude of things because subjective experience is subjective, so it depends on what exactly happened to the person, the proclivities they have, and what causes them such trauma that they cannot handle it consciously. The soul fragments when it undergoes an unconscionable experience in form. The rape and murder of a young girl, the merciless and methodical torture of a prisoner of war, or the opening of random fire upon a public place. Mutated scenarios of the free will game that we have chosen to play, like the ones I illustrated above, are always the byproduct of the physical body's dissonance or disconnection from its oversoul through toxicity. The oversoul is our higher vibrating self that actually devolves 11 other beings into different physical planes. It does not have to be Earth, but there are 12 devolvements from the same oversoul at one time. And that oversoul anchors us in the specific dimensional structure of 16 levels. This 16 level structure in which we currently participate, into which our corporal body, physical body, is indexed like a Luxor beam light axis, is one branch in a tree of glowing limbs that lead back to source, which is the combination of all the perspectives ever devolved into every single physical immaterial plane. That is where all of the subjective experiences go to pool together in this incredibly vast bliss that has been described by many religions in different ways. This is what we quest for by divining into different levels of form, is to come back and to propel further into states of bliss, like light oscillations that create our own realities. We are here to create a more and more rounded understanding of the interdimensional truth of love and the many ways that it can enact itself. This is why it is crucial to remain on the map with the oversoul through health. The kind of crap that we eat today, especially in America, is not meant to happen. There is a clear intention for that because it keeps us off the map by very intentionally created chemicals and other practices like meat eating that keep us completely clogged in our digestive tract and completely off the map of our oversouls, so that we are prey to all sorts of horrific experiences in the lower astral realm, which permeates down into our material reality, which causes the phantom world to be populated by innumerable amounts of soul fragments through traumas created by all of that. Literally Literally, there is not a number for how many soul fragments there are, because when a soul fragments from a specific experience, like a car accident, for example, then that soul fragment can fragment as well, because it's aberrant. Kind of like those experiments that we hear about when the quantum particles are told, I love you, I hate you, and the particles that were told that I hate you just have these aberrant lightning crackle paths that extend on. If you were to allow that to go on, it would go on infinitely in a nihilistic direction, a complete chaotic mess. We have protoplasmic selves littering every single possible node of the light matrix everywhere, keeping the Earth buried. This is part of the plot to keep Earth as an energy harvesting bank, where we just keep continuing to give our soul matrix through the constant reincarnational process to the elites who vampirically suck it from us. We are not experiencing bliss, let's be honest. Hardly anyone is experiencing true bliss. No one knows what that even means anymore. Look at our world. It's this like computer chip of buzzkill. That's because of all the things I'm talking about. Depending upon the severity of the trauma incurred upon the human experiencer that is cut off from its oversoul, their protoplasmic or biological or telluric body undergoes a measure of self-protection called soul fragmentation. A soul fragments are literally sunders at its quantum resonance level, like a mirror shatter, when it undergoes a situation or trauma that it is not capable to consciously process. It's like when we break our leg. Your body is your own savior. Your body protects you from feeling the full force of that pain. So our vessels, our vehicles, and all levels look out for us. No matter what, even if we are off the map, we are still divine. We are still protected because our heartbeat still reaches us from our oversoul. That is something that comes straight from source. As long as our hearts are beating, we still have the power to use our magic. The ironic part of soul fragmentation is that person could only have experienced the experience that caused them to fragment in the low resonance that they're already in by choice. When a person fragments in the physical plane, which happened to me, and this is what I actually learned from fielding with my oversoul, is that the inner child must leave the body, and that's when your passion, your true passion that you remember as a child, departs. It actually must depart because it cannot live in your body. It's too high resonant, and it lives in the 5th, 7th, and 9th dimensional structure, which are the starscape realms within this dimensional structure, until called back consciously by the corporeal self. Like I said earlier, this situation is really bad. It's so bad. When we go off the map of our oversouls, like scudding little gray clouds in front of the sun, we open ourselves up to complete chance. Let me make this very clear. Free will and chance are totally different things. Chance is not the same thing as free will. Have you ever read about someone who has just gone through something unimaginable? I mean, there is a wealth of it now, especially in this era. Shootings, horrific killings, like the most fucked up things you can imagine are happening right now at their worst. So have you ever just read a story like that in the paper or heard about it from a friend and just known that it just wasn't supposed to happen? Like, this is beyond a free will game. It outstrips like a learning lesson. It's too ugly. It's too messed up. That's the resonance that human beings are collectively in on this earth right now. Complete and utter chance. Soul fragmentation was never meant to happen. But when the world becomes divided enough by hate, the dimensional structure of the program has to make compensations for the atrocities done to it. It's sort of like a glitch in a video game. When you run into a certain spot and suddenly like the city around you vanishes or glitches really weird, and you can see like this like white limbo beyond it, and there's literally nowhere you can go no matter how hard you try. You need to just turn off the game system and start over. The only way out of this scenario is the programmer herself. First to recognize that there's an issue, then to get creative with her code and write the player out of the limbo that they're experiencing, like an update, and put them back on the map of the matrix of the game as was originally intended, to have the experience to win the game and then move on to other games. Pretty much everyone has soul fragments that are holding themselves back from being their true selves, that are littered throughout their timeline like Hansel and Gretel shards, and not even just in this life and lives before that. They just don't know it because they're out of alignment with their own oversoul, which is the one that allows them to understand these things like I have understood by my alignment with my oversoul. This is just something that's crazily fantastical, random, whatever. They'd rather just go out and do what is safe and easy and not face the fact that there is so much trauma within this physical body that needs to be healed. There are so many lines connected to these fragments leading out into so many different parts of the matrix within the phantom world caused by innumerable traumas, and then those fragments fragmenting themselves, so it's just this giant mess for everyone. And like I said, as long as this is the case, as long as there are soul fragments listing about the earth and aimless confusion about who they are and what their purpose is, the earth cannot ascend into her 5th dimensional prototype of Terra, the bliss heaven on earth realm. This is because the resonance of these protoplasmic pieces is so low, it is so low that it's keeping the earth literally imprisoned in density, and it just cannot quantumly ascend. It can't. So it takes her children to take it upon themselves to make it out of this. And this is another freaking video, but the elite are the ones who are consciously siphoning our soul matrix like cocaine, like Dementors in Harry Potter, sucking the souls out to stay blissful. Do not want us to know any of this because it would completely undo the charade that they've been keeping going for centuries now. Because if we did know this, we would call back all of our soul fragments and collectively attain the impulses from the galactic center that will allow us us to ascend into this Terra utopia world without the possibility of a parasitic infiltration, because it's not in the resonance of that. It would not exist. Literally, by us calling back our fragmented selves from any number of crises and traumas, we have the power on our own, within our own freaking bodies, in the silence of our bedroom, to undo all of the war, all of the violence, all of the oppression that is going on, because we would resonate into an octave of reality on this same earth that doesn't even have any of that. It wouldn't even exist. So the elite naturally inundates us with all of these ideas of what ghosts and demons are, so that we're just freaking afraid of all things supernatural. Then we just go use it as a form of entertainment. We're so far away from even understanding that we ourselves are ghosts, because we're watching it on a screen and eating popcorn and screaming at it, instead of really understanding, why do ghosts exist? Why do demons exist? Why are there like all these pain-filled beings just like roaming about? Like, should we help them? You ever see a character in a movie like help a ghost? No, it's like get out of the house or kill it with fire. Like, it's so ridiculously far from the point, and intentionally so, that it's keeping people into total confusion about their own feelings about what's going on. So I ask you this: write a letter to your soul fragments and see what happens. You may not remember all the traumas that happened in your life, especially not at a younger age. During this process, you may find that certain images and ideas that maybe have like echoed through your subconscious mind in the form of dreams are actually things that did happen to you, that you've suppressed with your own creativity to protect yourself until you were ready to face the trauma head on. I've had the opportunity to heal soul fragments. They're all around me right now, actually. I'm healing them with my own light sternum right at this very moment. They've been coming to me for over a year now, and I have the privilege of learning all of these different stories. I went to a party recently where there were soul fragments from a lynching that had occurred in a tree at the venue. There was a giant tree, and I looked at it and I knew that there were lynchings that occurred in that tree, and those beings that had suffered from the lynchings were just milling about the bottom of the tree, and they were asking me, because my light was shining forth so brightly, they were asking me if they could have some of my light because it was so beautiful to them. They just want to feel dimensional again, but they don't even know what that means. They don't know what it is. All they can see is a gray-blue void landscape, and they just want to become whole again. But we cannot even fathom, from this point of view in our physical selves, what it's like from the point of view of our protoplasmic versions. It pains me. It pains me to even talk about. I've returned my own soul fragments so that my own inner child can go back into my heart, my Bradley self, that had been hanging out in the starscape. And he talked to me through encoded anagrams that I was on my path, that I was supposed to learn about these fragments and to share this truth with you so that you can undergo the same process of re-accessing your inner child and your oversoul. They're waiting patiently for you to make the choice to do this. Awakening is as simple as awakening. We just gotta do it. Let's do it together. Keep the conversation going, please. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me. Let me know what you need, because I'm here for your healing journey so we can all attain Terra together. I love you. Fight on, Light Warrior.